"Be gentle," she asked, and the cowboy's next move melted her heart, the twin sons of Solara. 7 hung low in the sky, casting long golden shadows across the dusty town of Copperidge. The heat shimmered over the metal roofs of the hovering saloons and the worn cobblestone streets, giving the place a surreal glow. In this frontier town, the smell of fried protein patties mingled with ozone from malfunctioning hover carts, and the soft whir of mechanical horses blended with the clatter of boots. Lyra adjusted the straps of her backpack and squinted into the sun. She had been mapping the outer edges of Copperidge for the Galactic Trade Guild, and today, her little hovering scout drone, Sparrow, was supposed to collect data on the canyon routes nearby. It had taken her months to gain the Guild's trust, and she couldn't afford a single mistake. Her heart beat a little faster, not from excitement, but from caution. Solara 7 was beautiful, yes, but dangerous. She stepped lightly onto the cracked stone bridge that spanned a narrow canyon. Below, the wind swept dust into twisting spirals. She raised her hands and tapped a few buttons on her wrist console. Sparrow hummed, rose a few meters, and began its programmed survey of the canyon walls. Everything seemed fine until the drone faltered. A spark flashed, and it wobbled dangerously. Lyra's stomach dropped. "No, no, no, hold together, Sparrow," she whispered. The drone spiraled toward the canyon edge, spinning like a leaf in a storm. Lyra instinctively ran, her boots kicking up clouds of red dust. She reached the edge and leaned over the railing, her heart pounding. If the drone fell, months of work and a crucial map of the canyon would be gone. Then, out of nowhere, a shadow moved across the sunlit dust. A figure appeared, striding over the bridge with easy confidence. He was tall, with sun-bleached hair tucked under a worn hat, a dusty duster flapping behind him. But what caught Lyra's attention most were his mechanical arm and the way he moved. Smooth, precise, and calm, even in a sudden crisis. Without a word, he leapt forward, catching Sparrow mid-air with his gloved hand. The drone beeped gratefully as he set it on the bridge. Lyra's eyes widened. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low but friendly. Yes," she stammered. "I think it's damaged." She looked at him closely. "Thank you. That was amazing." He tipped his hat. "Name's Jace. I don't let things fall if I can help it." Lyra smiled nervously, brushing dust from her sleeve. "I'm Lyra Solis." "Be gentle," she added, a hint of laughter in her tone, "or my drone might start thinking it's in danger of a stampede every time I launch it." Jace grinned, a faint scar tracing the line of his jaw. "Gentle's my specialty," he said, and there was a softness in his eyes that didn't match the rugged world around them. Lyra felt a strange warmth, a flutter she hadn't expected on this dusty frontier, but she pushed it aside. There were more pressing concerns. She examined Sparrow's sensors. "I need to get it repaired."
"The canyon survey is crucial."
Jace stepped closer. "I know a place," he said simply. "Old shop on Main Street. Techs are careful. I can escort you." She hesitated, but something in his calm, confident manner made her nod. "All right. That would help." The streets of Copperidge were busy, even this late in the day. Hover wagons buzzed past, and merchants called to customers. Lyra followed Jace, who moved with a practiced stride, his mechanical arm whirring faintly as he adjusted the strap of the utility holster. "Do you often rescue drones for strangers?" she asked, curious despite herself. "Depends," Jace replied. "Depends if they need help, and if they ask nicely." His grin widened, playful but sincere. "You did ask nicely." She laughed, a sound that surprised her, light and free in a town that usually felt dusty and harsh. "Then you're forgiven for saving my life and my work in one move." They reached the repair shop, a small, cluttered place with flickering neon signs. Inside, the air smelled of ozone, grease, and solder. Tiny robots skittered across the floor, carrying small tools or rolling parts to benches where elderly technicians worked with intense concentration. Jace introduced her. "She's our client. Sparrow needs some gentle hands." The chief technician, a woman with copper-streaked hair and thick goggles, smiled. "We'll take care of it. Don't worry." She gestured toward a workbench. Lyra carefully set Sparrow down. The little drone whirred in relief as its sensors were examined and repaired. While they waited, Lyra noticed Jace leaning against a workbench, watching her with quiet interest. She wondered what his life must be like, roaming the frontier, dealing with mechanical horses, rogue AI, and dangers that she only read about in guild reports. But there was something comforting about the calm in his presence, the way he seemed to belong in chaos without letting it touch him. "You're not like most cowboys I've read about," she said finally, tilting her head. "Most cowboys don't have mechanical arms," he said, chuckling softly. "And most don't care about things like drones or tiny creatures. I like keeping things alive, people, machines, animals. That's my code." Lyra smiled, feeling an unexpected sense of safety. "I think that's rare," Jace shrugged modestly. "Maybe. Or maybe the frontier just makes you see the value in gentle things." The drone's repairs were done sooner than expected. Sparrow floated and hovered with perfect balance, its sensors blinking in approval. Lyra reached out to it, relieved. "Thank you. It's perfect again." "Your instructions were very clear," Jace said with a grin. "I just didn't let it hit the ground." She laughed again. There was a spark of connection, something tender and yet unspoken. Her thoughts swirled with the realization that she had spent years traveling distant planets meeting countless strangers, and yet Jace felt different, familiar, safe, and somehow stirring her heart. "I should get back to the canyon survey," Lyra said, her voice soft. She lifted Sparrow with careful hands, feeling the machine's delicate hum. "But thank you, Jace, for everything." He tipped his hat once more. "Remember," he said with a wink, "gentle's my specialty. Just ask next time." As she stepped out of the repair shop, Lyra glanced back at him. The sun caught the edge of his hat, casting a halo of light, and for a moment she forgot the heat, the dust, and the dangers of the frontier. She only remembered the calm confidence in his eyes. The canyon still waited for her survey, the winds and shadows stretching out ahead. But for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel alone. The frontier was harsh, unpredictable, and sometimes unforgiving. But maybe, just maybe, there was room for gentleness, too. And Lyra couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to explore it, with Jace at her side. The twin suns of Solara. Seven had climbed higher, painting the canyon in warm gold and sharp shadows. Lyra mounted her hover pack carefully, Sparrow floating beside her like a loyal companion. She glanced at Jace, who adjusted the strap of his duster with practiced ease, his mechanical arm whirring softly. "Ready?" he asked, tipping his hat. Lyra nodded, feeling a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. "As ready as I'll ever be." They stepped onto the narrow canyon path, where jagged cliffs rose on either side. The wind howled through the rocks, carrying fine red dust that stung their skin. Hover carts and mechanical horses were rare here, too dangerous for most travelers, but Jace's robotic horse, Starlight, moved confidently on the uneven terrain. "Don't worry about balance," Jace said, noticing her hesitation. Starlight steady. "You'll do fine." Lyra hesitated, then climbed onto the robotic horse, gripping the reins tightly. The machine shifted slightly under her weight, sensors adjusting to keep her safe. She looked down at Jace, who gave a reassuring nod. "Gentle," he reminded her with a small grin. She laughed softly. "I remember." The canyon stretched for miles, twisting and turning with jagged rock formations. As they rode, Lyra began taking measurements with her wrist console, marking areas that could be dangerous for future trade routes. "Why do you care so much about being gentle?" she asked suddenly, curiosity breaking the silence. Jace glanced at her. "The frontier's dangerous. People, animals, machines, everything deserves a chance to survive. I don't like causing pain if I don't have to, that's all." Lyra considered this. She had spent years in structured guild missions, focusing on efficiency and data. But there was something refreshing about Jace's approach. The idea that strength and gentleness could coexist felt new. A sudden sound made them both pause. A low hum, mechanical yet erratic, echoed through the canyon. Sparrow rose slightly, sensors flickering with caution.
"What is it?"
Lyra whispered. Jace's eyes narrowed. Trouble. From behind a jagged rock formation, a group of small wheeled drones zipped toward them. Their red warning lights flashed aggressively. Lyra gasped. "Bounty hunters?" "Not yet," Jace said calmly. "Just scouts. Stay close." He nudged Starlight forward, and the horse responded with a gentle whir. The drones hovered closer, scanning them, but Jace's mechanical arm reached out with precision. He disabled one with a careful tap, short-circuiting its sensors without destroying it. The other drones scattered when they saw him, spinning away from the canyon path. Lyra's eyes widened. You didn't destroy them." Jace shrugged, eyes focused. "They're just doing their job. No reason to make enemies if we can avoid it."
Her admiration grew.
Not only was he skilled, but he had restraint. Even in danger, he stayed true to his code. They continued through the canyon, navigating twisting paths and narrow ledges. Sparrow hovered beside Lyra, occasionally sending signals back to her wrist console. Rocks shifted under Starlight's hooves, but the robotic horse's sensors kept them steady. Hours passed, and the suns began their descent, casting long shadows over the red rocks. Lyra felt a sense of awe. The canyon was harsh, yes, but beautiful, alive with light, color, and motion. She stole glances at Jace, who moved as naturally as if he belonged to this rugged world. "You've seen this place before?" she asked. "Sometimes," he said, his voice quiet. "I like to ride where others don't. Find paths that aren't obvious. Gives you time to think and to notice the small things." "What small things?" she asked, intrigued. "The wind patterns, the shadows, the way animals react to changes. Even machines have a rhythm. You just have to watch." Lyra smiled. It was rare to meet someone who paid attention to the details that mattered most. She realized she wanted to see the world through his eyes. Suddenly, the canyon floor shook. Small rocks tumbled from the cliffs above, and a gust of wind howled through the narrow path. Lyra gripped Starlight's reins, heart pounding. "Stay calm," Jace said, voice steady. "This happens sometimes. Just follow my lead." He guided Starlight around the rocks, moving gently but quickly. Lyra held on tight, feeling the machine respond to every small movement of her body. They reached a safer area, and she let out a shaky breath. "That was close," she whispered. "Nothing we couldn't handle," Jace said, giving her a small, reassuring smile. They found a narrow alcove to rest as the suns dipped behind the canyon walls. Lyra let Sparrow hover nearby while she examined the data collected so far. Jace leaned against a rock, watching her with a quiet curiosity. "You're very focused," he said finally. "I have to be," she replied. "One mistake and months of work could be gone. But thank you for keeping us safe." He shrugged again, modestly. "Just doing my job. Gentle. Remember?" She laughed softly. "I remember." As the sky turned shades of orange and purple, the first stars of Solara 7 appeared. Lyra felt a calmness she hadn't expected in a dangerous canyon. Jace's presence, steady and gentle, made the frontier feel less lonely, less harsh. "Do you always travel alone?" she asked, curiosity nudging her. "Mostly," he said, "but sometimes it's nice to have someone who understands what you're doing. Someone careful." Lyra realized she liked the idea of traveling with him, not just for safety, but for companionship. Someone who saw the value in gentle things, even in a world that demanded toughness. Their rest was brief. As night fell, the temperature dropped sharply, and the canyon winds carried a whispering chill. Lyra zipped her jacket and climbed back onto Starlight, ready to continue the survey. Suddenly, a faint glow appeared ahead, a group of lights moving along the canyon floor. Lyra squinted. "More drones?" she asked. "Could be bounty hunters this time," Jace said, his voice low but calm. "Stay close. I've got this." They moved cautiously, following a narrow ledge above the approaching lights. The drones, or whoever they were, seemed unaware of them, focused on something below. Jace's hand rested lightly on the reins of Starlight, his mechanical arm gleaming faintly in the moonlight. "They won't see us," he whispered. "Gentle steps, careful moves. That's the code." Lyra watched him in awe. He was not just strong or skilled. He was thoughtful, deliberate. Everything he did had a purpose, a kindness even in danger. She felt her heart swell with admiration, and something more, a warmth that made her pulse quicken. They reached a safer vantage point, and Lyra allowed herself to relax for a moment. Sparrow hovered close, sending back live images of the canyon below. She reviewed them, heart racing, but grateful for the protection beside her. "You really are gentle," she whispered almost to herself. Jace turned his head, catching her words. "Gentle," he repeated softly. "It's not weakness. It's knowing when to act and when to hold back. That's what matters." For the first time, Lyra understood that bravery wasn't just about facing danger. It was about protecting what you cared for, without hurting what didn't deserve harm. And in Jace, she saw that bravery in its purest, gentlest form. The night stretched on, and the twin moons rose above the canyon. The air was filled with strange alien sounds, the hum of distant machinery and the quiet, steady breathing of a cowboy who had mastered the art of gentleness in a harsh world. Lyra felt a sense of peace she had not known in years of traveling alone. She knew the journey ahead would be challenging, full of unknown dangers and difficult choices, but with Jace by her side and the gentle code he lived by, she felt ready to face anything. And as the stars sparkled above the canyon, she couldn't help but wonder what adventures and what lessons in courage and kindness the frontier still held for them both. The canyon was quiet, but the peace was fragile. Lyra rode Starlight closely behind Jace, her wrist console displaying the latest scans from Sparrow. The twin moons of Solara, 7 cast a silver glow over the jagged rocks, making the shadows seem longer, darker, almost alive. "Do you think they saw us?" Lyra whispered, glancing nervously at the flickering lights below. Jace shook his head. "No. But they're close. Stay calm. Watch the path. We move carefully." The lights moved steadily through the canyon floor. Bounty hunters, no doubt, determined to capture Lyra's survey data for illegal trade purposes. Lyra's heart raced. She had never imagined that mapping a canyon could bring danger so quickly. Jace nudged Starlight forward. "Gentle steps, remember. Nothing reckless. We need to reach the high ledge up ahead. It's safe from them." Lyra gripped the reins tightly. Her pulse was fast, but she trusted him. Every move he made seemed measured, careful, protective. As they climbed a narrow slope, a drone suddenly shot out from behind a rock formation. Its red sensors glowed brightly, scanning for movement. Lyra froze. Sparrow emitted a high-pitched warning signal. Jace moved faster, intercepting the drone with his mechanical arm. With a gentle tap, he short-circuited it, sending it spinning harmlessly onto the rocks. "You're amazing," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Jace smiled faintly, keeping his eyes on the shadows below. "Gentle doesn't mean weak," he said softly. "It means being smart, careful, and protecting what matters." They reached the high ledge, catching their breath. Below, the bounty hunters stopped and scanned the area, unaware of the 2 figures watching from above. The hunter's leader, a tall man with a helmeted visor and a hovering blaster, barked orders to his crew. "Think they'll find us?" Lyra asked, gripping Starlight's reins. "They won't," Jace replied. "Not if we're patient." The night stretched on. The wind howled through the canyon, carrying faint sounds of machinery and movement. Lyra couldn't help but notice Jace's calm presence beside her. Even in danger, he remained steady, his mechanical arm resting lightly on the reins, his eyes scanning every shadow. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught her attention. A small alien creature, its skin shimmering in blue and silver, scuttled across the rocks below. It seemed frightened by the hunter's lights. Lyra wanted to reach out to save it, but Jace gently held her back. "Let it be," he whispered. "We can't risk it. Gentle doesn't mean reckless." She nodded, realizing that gentleness was more than an act of kindness. It was wisdom. But the bounty hunters were not going to wait. One of their drones malfunctioned, rolling toward their ledge.
Lyra froze. Jace's eyes narrowed.
Without hesitation, he moved. His mechanical arm extended smoothly, intercepting the drone midair. He spun it harmlessly toward a canyon wall, disabling it without a single spark of aggression. Lyra's heart swelled. Every movement he made, even in the heat of danger, was careful and precise. "Come on," he said, turning back to her. "We move now." They navigated the high ledge, careful to avoid loose rocks and unstable terrain. The bounty hunters had split up, trying to flank them from below. Lyra's heart pounded with every step. She had never been so close to real danger, and yet she felt safer with Jace beside her than she ever had alone. Then a sudden flash. A blaster shot from below ricocheted off a rock near Starlight, sending sparks into the air. Lyra cried out, gripping the reins. "Stay close," Jace shouted. He moved forward, guiding Starlight with skill and care, leading them through a narrow tunnel in the canyon wall. The hunter's blaster shots ricocheted around the rocks, but Jace's calm presence shielded her from panic.
Inside the tunnel, Lyra could barely see.
The air was thick with dust, the walls glowing faintly from bioluminescent minerals. Starlight's sensors adjusted automatically, keeping them steady. "Are we safe?" Lyra asked, her voice shaking. "For now," Jace replied. "But we need to keep moving. They'll regroup." Lyra swallowed hard, realizing how much she relied on him. Not just for safety, but for guidance, for confidence. She had admired him before, but now her feelings were growing deeper. She felt a warmth in her chest she couldn't explain. As they emerged from the tunnel, they reached a wide plateau overlooking the canyon. The twin moons bathed the rocks in silver light, revealing a breathtaking view, but the bounty hunters were still below, regrouping. "We need a plan," Jace said, scanning the canyon with sharp eyes. "We can't outrun them forever, but we can outsmart them." Here his mind raced. "What do you suggest?" Jace pointed to a narrow canyon path that twisted sharply around a cliff face. "We lure them here. They can't follow easily. It's narrow, tricky, and gentle enough for us to navigate without risk. Lyra nodded. I trust you. Together they moved carefully, Starlight's hooves adjusting to the uneven terrain. Sparrow hovered nearby, sending signals of approaching hunters. As they reached the twist in the canyon, Jay stopped. He set Starlight in position and whispered, "Gentle now." He reached into his satchel and pulled out small energy barriers, harmless but effective. With precision, he set them along the path to redirect the hunters without harming them. Lyra watched in awe. Every move he made was calculated, protective, and kind. The hunters arrived moments later, chasing blindly. They were funneled into the narrow path, slowed and confused by the energy barriers. Lyra could see the leader gesturing angrily, frustrated that his quarry had outsmarted him.
"You did it," she whispered, her eyes shining.
Jace glanced at her, a faint blush on his cheeks. Gentle wins most of the time. They continued along the plateau, leaving the hunters behind. The danger had passed for now, and the canyon returned to its quiet beauty. Lyra took a deep breath, feeling relief and gratitude wash over her. "You were incredible," she said softly, looking at him with admiration. "Not just with the drones, but with everything." Jace smiled faintly, looking out at the canyon below. "It's not about being incredible. It's about being careful, being aware, being gentle." Every word, every gesture, every calculated move he had made tonight had shown her bravery in its purest form. Not reckless, but thoughtful, kind, protective. And her heart, it ached with warmth and admiration. As they made camp for the night on the plateau, Lyra set up her portable shelter while Jace tended Starlight and checked Sparrow. The twin moons reflected off the canyon walls, bathing them in soft silver light. Lyra couldn't help but glance at him. He moved with quiet strength, careful attention in every gesture. She realized she had spent years exploring distant worlds, meeting countless strangers, yet none had stirred her heart like Jace. "Do you ever stop to rest?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Sometimes," he said, glancing at her. "But I like to keep moving. Makes me appreciate moments like this." She smiled softly. "Moments like what?" "This," he said, looking around at the stars, the canyon, and the quiet beauty of the night. Moments when everything feels right and danger isn't constant. Moments when you realize the world can be gentle too. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. She wanted to tell him how she felt, how safe and inspired she felt in his presence, but words caught in her throat. Instead, she smiled and nodded, feeling the warmth in her chest deepen. The night passed quietly, with only the soft hum of Starlight and the faint beeping of Sparrow. Lyra lay in her shelter, listening to the gentle wind and thinking about the day's events. She realized something profound. Bravery was not just about fighting or surviving. It was about protecting what you cared for, moving with thought and care, and acting with kindness, even when the world was harsh. And Jace, he embodied all of that. As she drifted to sleep, Lyra felt a quiet certainty. Whatever challenges the canyon, or the bounty hunters, might bring tomorrow, she wanted to face them with him by her side. The first rays of Solara. Seven's twin suns painted the canyon in warm gold, streaking through the cliffs and illuminating the path ahead. Lyra woke with a start, Sparrow hovering gently beside her. The night had been quiet, but the memory of the bounty hunters and their aggressive pursuit lingered like a shadow. Jace was already awake, tending Starlight with careful precision. His mechanical arm moved smoothly, checking sensors and adjusting the robotic horse's balance. Lyra watched him for a moment, heart swelling. She still couldn't quite believe someone could be so strong, brave, and yet gentle. "Morning," she said softly, brushing her hair from her face. "Morning," he replied with a faint smile, glancing up. "Sleep well?" "Yes, thanks to you," she said, her voice warm. "I feel safe. Somehow." He tilted his hat and nodded. "Gentle, remember? That's part of it." They packed their camp quickly, ready to continue the canyon survey before the suns rose too high. Lyra adjusted Sparrow's flight pattern and checked her instruments. "If we finish today, we can submit the mapping data to the guild and be done with this route," she said, a mix of excitement and relief in her voice. Jace mounted Starlight first, his posture relaxed but alert. "Then let's get moving," he said. Gentle steps, careful eyes, and full attention. The canyon isn't done testing us yet. They moved along the rocky path, Starlight's hooves steady against the uneven terrain. The canyon seemed alive in the morning light. cliffs glowing red and gold, small alien plants sparkling with dew, and shadows moving gently in the wind. Lyra felt her heart lift. Despite the dangers, the canyon had a serene beauty that made her feel connected to the universe in a way she hadn't in years. "Do you ever get tired of the frontier?" she asked, glancing at him. "Sometimes," Jace admitted, "but it's worth it. You find places no one else sees. You meet creatures and people who teach you things you can't learn anywhere else." Lyra nodded thoughtfully. She had learned much during her travels, but with Jace, she realized she was learning something new, how bravery and gentleness could coexist, and how someone could care deeply without losing strength. Suddenly, Sparrow's sensors beeped loudly. Lyra glanced at her console, alarmed. A new group of drones approached from the canyon floor, faster and more numerous than before. "Looks like the hunters weren't done," Jace said calmly. "We need to think fast." Lyra felt her stomach tighten, but she trusted him. "What's the plan?" Jace pointed to a narrow canyon turn ahead, a path so tight it forced the drones to slow down. "We lead them there. I can set up a harmless trap, just enough to stop them without hurting anyone." Lyra nodded. "Okay." "Gentle, right?" "Exactly," he said, a small grin on his face. They moved quickly but carefully along the ledge. The bounty hunters below were gaining ground, their mechanical horses kicking up dust. Lyra's pulse raced, but she focused on Starlight's steady movements and Jace's calm guidance. When they reached the narrow turn, Jace stopped Starlight and began setting up small energy barriers. They glowed faintly, harmless but strong enough to block or redirect the approaching drones and hunters. Lyra assisted him, placing the last barriers carefully. The hunters arrived moments later, speeding toward the turn. The barriers forced them to slow, causing confusion. Sparks flickered as drones bumped harmlessly against them. The leader shouted in frustration, realizing his prey had outsmarted him once again. "Now," Jace whispered. He guided Starlight forward, leading them along a twisting side path that only a skilled rider could navigate. The hunters tried to follow, but the canyon's tight twists slowed them down. Lyra followed closely, her confidence growing. She felt capable, safe, and exhilarated. As they reached a high plateau overlooking the canyon floor, they paused. The hunters were far below, their frustration evident but no longer a threat. The canyon stretched endlessly before them, a mix of jagged rocks, shimmering minerals, and the soft glow of twin suns. Lyra exhaled relief washing over her. "We did it," she whispered. "We did," Jace replied, glancing at her. There was a softness in his eyes, a quiet warmth that made her heart skip. For a moment the canyon was silent except for the wind. Lyra felt the weight of the past days, the danger, the fear, the trust she had placed in Jace. And she realized something important. She didn't just admire him. She felt connected to him in a way she had never felt with anyone else. "Jace," she began hesitantly, "thank you for everything, for saving Sparrow, for guiding me, for being gentle." He turned to her, the corner of his mouth curving into a gentle smile. "You make it easy to be gentle," he said softly. Her heart melted at the words. She laughed, a soft, warm sound. "I think the canyon and I both owe you a lot." Jace tipped his hat, but his eyes never left hers. "Then let's make sure we explore it properly, together." They continued along the plateau, taking measurements, scanning for hazards, and marking safe paths. Lyra felt a sense of fulfillment. This was her work, her passion. But now it was shared with someone who respected it, protected it, and even enhanced it with his calm, gentle presence. Hours passed, and the survey was nearly complete. Lyra and Jace paused to admire the view. The canyon stretched endlessly, bathed in golden light, a wild and beautiful landscape untouched by chaos or violence. Lyra felt a deep peace. For all its danger, the frontier held moments of awe, moments where careful steps and gentle hearts made all the difference. As they prepared to descend, Sparrow hovered close to Lyra, its sensors scanning the path ahead. "Ready?" she asked, adjusting her console. "Ready?" Jace replied. They began the descent, moving carefully but steadily. The canyon's twists and turns were challenging, but Starlight's precise movements and Jace's guidance made the path manageable. Lyra marveled at the trust she had in him, the calm certainty that he would protect them both without harming anyone. Suddenly, a small alien creature scurried across their path. Lyra instinctively reached out, but Jace gently held her back. "Gentle doesn't mean reckless," he whispered. We protect life, yes, but we also protect ourselves. She smiled, realizing that this was what he meant all along. Bravery wasn't about recklessness. It was about care, thought, and kindness. By late afternoon, they reached the canyon's edge. The path was clear, and Lyra's data was complete. She breathed a sigh of relief. "We did it," she said, smiling at Jace. "Yes," he replied, his eyes soft. "And we did it gently." They set up a small camp to rest before heading back to Copperidge. Lyra unpacked her tools while Jace tended to Starlight and Sparrow. The twin suns were setting, casting a warm glow across the canyon. Lyra watched him, feeling her heart full of gratitude and admiration. "Jace," she said quietly, I never expected someone could be so strong, so brave, and so gentle at the same time." He looked at her, his expression thoughtful. "Gentleness isn't weakness, Lyra. It's the greatest strength you can have." Her chest tightened with emotion. She wanted to say more, but words seemed too simple for what she felt. Instead, she reached out and touched his hand lightly. Jace didn't pull away. Instead, he held her hand gently, and for a moment the canyon, the dangers, and the frontier seemed far away. Lyra smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "Be gentle," she whispered, echoing her earlier words from the first day. Jace's lips curved into a smile. "Always," he said softly. The stars appeared as night fell, twinkling above the canyon. Lyra felt a quiet certainty. The frontier was wild, challenging, and unpredictable, but with someone like Jace beside her, it was also full of hope, trust, and gentle strength. Together they watched the twin moons rise, casting silver light over the canyon. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new challenges, and new paths to explore. But for now, they simply sat side by side, hearts full, knowing that the world could be brave, beautiful, and gentle all at once. And in that moment, Lyra realized something wonderful. She didn't have to face the frontier alone anymore. With Jace by her side, she could face anything.